Welcome back, Patrick, and thanks for watching every single one of the videos I upload. What's that now? Sorry, your name isn't Patrick? Well, maybe you should be a bit more like Patrick. Learn and listen from Patrick, everyone. He watches every single one of my videos, and is he even real? I'm not even sure. You aren't even sure. Nobody knows. But until we figure that out, we're gonna talk about the 5 most interesting games I played last week, covering everything from a puzzle game with over 1 million levels, a brand new 1 vs 1 Overwatch meets Clash Royale shooter, an action game so old that most of you probably haven't even played it yet, a hardcore old school 2D roguelike RPG, and finally, an arcade action platformer with wacky humor and thousands of user-generated levels. So grab your cool guy Patrick-like hat and sunglasses, because you are in for a mobile gaming treat today, with my favorite game of the week at the end of the video as always. So let's just have a look at the games. FRAG Pro Shooter is a first and third person, because yes, you can actually make that switch between those 2 game modes at any time in game. 1 vs 1 shooter that has both online matches, but also has offline training matches. And the game can best be described as a bit of a mix between Overwatch in terms of the characters, the weapons, and the art direction, and then a game like Clash Royale for the core gameplay loop, the objectives, and the unlocking system. So in FRAG Pro Shooter, we pick a team of 5 heroes, each with a unique weapon and set of abilities, which we then take into a 1 vs 1 real-time multiplayer match, which we win by getting the opponent to 0 points by killing his or her team and destroying his or her 2 base objectives. We only control 1 hero at the time though, with the 4 other heroes being controlled by bots, and when we then die or we just feel like switching to another hero, we directly take over control of one of the bots, no matter if they are in the middle of a gunfight, which keeps the game both hectic and interesting. New heroes are unlocked through loot boxes, which takes time to open, or they can be bought directly through in-app purchases, which certainly does give paying players a pay-to-progress faster advantage, although the matchmaking should ensure that we won't see those in-app purchase buying players before we have the same type of heroes and levels of heroes. But time will only tell if that matchmaking actually works like it should work. You can play the game offline. It takes up 213 megabytes of space. It's available on iOS and on Android in a beta version, and my verdict is that you should definitely play it, and especially if you've been on the lookout for a new casual shooter that also has a certain competitive element to it. Quadropus Rampage is an old but gold action game with wacky humor, where we fight seemingly endless floors of enemies until we eventually die, upgrade our Quadropus, and then repeat that process. It's one of the early games from the indie studio Butterscotch Shenanigans, and I'm just loving it. Although released all the way back in 2013, it recently became ad-free, and the humor is a game known for its out-there weapon names, such as, for example, the Rusted Green Sword of Unemployment, a personal favorite of mine, or the Premature Bottle of Idiocy, still holds up in 2019. Through the in-app purchases, we can unlock more characters, pets, and skins immediately, but there's really no need to do so unless you really want to support the developers, because the game can be played just fine without buying any of those. The game can be played offline. It takes up only 42 megabytes of space. It's available both on Android and on iOS, and my final verdict is that although this game is getting a bit old at this point, it's definitely still worth checking out if you have not played it yet. Blackmore 2. Where do I even start with this game? Blackmore 2 is an offline playable arcade platformer with a wacky art style, insanely difficult levels with slight puzzle elements, and a somewhat buggy co-op multiplayer mode, and thousands of user-generated levels, which keeps the game fresh. There are 8 characters to play with, each of which has a unique set of skills that unlock the more we play with that character. It has upgradable stats and then a ton of equipment. The monetization is super neat, focusing on a one-time $3 premium purchase that unlocks all characters immediately, and advertisements that we can watch to revive once we die. And you will definitely die in this game, so be prepared for that. The game can be played offline. It takes up 167 megabytes of space. It's out on Android in a beta version and on iOS, and my final verdict is that you should definitely play it if you enjoy a wacky humor and you don't mind your games not taking themselves too seriously. Dungeon Survival is a hardcore roguelike 2D old school RPG where we take 4 heroes, and no, this game isn't a gacha, don't worry, with us into dungeon after dungeon, fighting groups of enemies in the turn-based combat system that has us use one of our hero's 4 skills on every turn. The fact that each hero's position when facing an enemy determines which skills that hero can use adds a very interesting aspect to the combat system, because we have to determine the proper position for each of our heroes in relation to each other. And also, we do not automatically recover HP after every battle, and once a hero is dead, it's dead for good unless we revive it through in-app purchases, meaning that you will find yourself rotating between multiple teams of heroes while the other team is recovering HP at the inn in the game. If you enjoy diving deep into the stats of each hero, equipping lots of new gear, upgrading skills and so on, then you might just really enjoy this game. The game has rightfully received some flack though for being a copy of the PC game called Darkest Dungeon, mimicking both the art style and the gameplay. But the Darkest Dungeon developers has made it pretty clear that they have no intentions to make a mobile game, so while not as polished as Darkest Dungeon, Dungeon Survival is the best we've got on mobile. The game can be played offline, it takes up 194 MB of space, it's available on Android and iOS, and my verdict is that you should consider playing it if you really crave a Darkest Dungeon mobile game, but because this game isn't exactly original, I'm not really comfortable giving it my warmest recommendation. The gameplay is enjoyable though, so just judge this game for yourself. Kami 2 is a color manipulation puzzle game where our goal is to switch the colors around until the entire level has the same color. And I found this game both relaxing, but also a real challenge honestly, especially late on. But that's just how I like my puzzle games. There are over 100 levels to play through, but the real treasure of this game lies in the 1 million puzzles created by the community using the level editor. They look amazing, and they keep the game fresh and interesting forever. There are no forced ads in Kami 2, and the only monetization is through in-app purchases to buy more hints at a rather expensive rate of 3 hints for $1. The game can be played offline, it takes up 153 MB of space, it's out on both Android and on iOS, and my final verdict is that you should smack that download button immediately and download this game if you are a fan of puzzles, because this is a dang good game and it has many more puzzles than you will ever be able to complete in your entire lifetime. Thanks for watching, let me know which game was your favorite, and until next time, just keep gaming, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys around.